What are the key agile matrices and what are their uses? And how will you use them to measure your team performance? So today we're going to talk about agile matrices and we are going to talk about how you measure performance of an agile team. It's a must know question and it's something you need to really know. I guarantee you this is a question you're going to get almost on our interview, right? Because the key to helping a team become performance, it's about measure. So measure and grow is a very important aspect in Scrum or in Agile. How will you measure the maturity of your team is to be able to understand how to read the different metrics that are related to team maturity. The most widely used, which I guess you already know, is the velocity. Now, when we're talking about the team velocity, what is it all about? Now, team velocity averagely measure the amount of work the team is capable of completing within the sprint. So the amount of work a software development team can do in a sprint. When we talk about a sprint, we're actually talking about a 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or 1 week. Now, or in an iteration, typically most when we talk about iteration, we're talking about a safe environment, right? Scale agile environment. We talk about sprint, we talk about the Scrum environment. But iteration and Scrum, the same thing. So the average time is an empirical gauge of period of predictivity for the future commitment, which means that let me use a different example. Let's say that you're an athlete, right? And you have run about 10 different competition, or you participate in 10 different competition. Now I can be able to determine the amount of speed you will use to complete a specific line because I've seen your performance in those 10 different competition, and I can take an average and I can predict if you have an upcoming competition, how much time you should be able to take. Now, if you wildly deviate out of that time, I'm going to start suggesting that there is something wrong. So velocity is the amount of work that a team is capable of completing, right? And we measure it at least across 6 iteration. 6 iteration is kind of standard acceptable. And then we look at the average. Now, that guides you to understand if something is going wrong or right? So I'll say 6 iteration. Some people may take less, but 6 iteration is the way to go. Now, the second thing which I want to talk about today is the burn down chart. Now, the burn down chart is very important metrics for the team. It kind of categorically in measure like how you're completing the stories that are within the sprint backlog. I want to take for instance, if you do more like for those who drink a lot of water and you have your water motivation bottle, if you top it up, let's say to 100 milliliters in the morning. Now, as the day is going on, you are drinking that water. You're hoping to finish it by the end of the day, right? So every time when you drink it, it drops down, right? So the burn down chart, every time a piece of work is completed, moved to done from the backlog, it indicates in the chart. It indicates in the chart. That's the burn down chart. So the burn down chart show us the pace at which the team is completing work. And let's say that if I come to your burn down chart and I realize that everything was burned down or was completed during the last day, it kind of gave me a couple of guys to start asking some question. Why is this team not completing work on the first, second, third day? Why is everything done in the last day? Now, it's helping me to guide how I should help the team, or what are some of the key questions I should be asking in order to understand how you are completing the work. So it's used to predict the team ability to complete scope as planned. Right, so to complete scope as planned is very effective for you to track scope creep. Now, if I come in and I add an item in the middle of the sprint, the bend down chart will actually indicate that something was added at this particular point. It's a very useful measurement trip. Now, the third one I want to talk about today is the circle time. Now, when we talk about circle time simply means the time we use, a time a developer use to complete a piece of work, when they pick it up and when they close the work, right? So that's the lead time. That's the cycle time. So the cycle time is very important. So let's say we have a story point that is a two-story pointer, right? And I picked that two-story pointer up today, which is a Friday. And assuming that Saturday and Sunday were working day, I'm expected to deliver that by Monday, right? But if I don't deliver it by Monday and I deliver it next Friday, it means that work that was supposed to take relatively about 2 days is now taking 7 days. Now something is wrong. So the second time help you to see this work was estimated to be completed within a period of 5 days, but this has taken over 2 weeks. What is going wrong? So cycle time is the time a developer pick up a piece of item from a backlog to the time they complete it and they put it in done. And on the other side, lead time simply means the time it enter the sprint backlog or the iteration backlog. Remember, our sprint cycle, most often we take a standard of 2 weeks, right? This doesn't mean that it's 2 weeks, it's standard. We're taking a standard of 2 weeks. Now, if it's a standard of 2 weeks, when you start your sprint, what happened? Every item that was planned in that sprint get into to-do list. Now, if an item get on the to-do list today, let's say we're starting our sprint on a Wednesday, and the item get on the to-do list on the Wednesday, and maybe it's not been picked up for development until next Wednesday after 1 week where our sprint has started. Now it's still a lead time. And then someone pick that item next Wednesday after 7 days and complete it on Thursday and move it to done. The lead time is going to be 8 days, right? Because the waiting time for someone to commit to that work is the time they pick it, right? And the second time is the time they pick it to the time they complete it, right? So the lead time also help us to understand how long a piece of work or how long we should expect to deliver something, right? And it's very, very important because it gives us an idea of if we're wasting so much time. For instance, if we have a piece of work that is put in the backlog, let's say get rolled over to the other sprint. Now, it was supposed to be completed within a sprint, which is 2 weeks. It's now taking us 1 month. We are not done. That's the lead time. We're still working on it. So the lead time is high. Why are we spending so much time? And we can now start identifying if there are bottlenecks. Bottlenecks simply means that what is holding it back, right? Very important. Another one which is very important is throughput. 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 So when we talk about throughput simply means how many items are we able to complete in a sprint. Throughput doesn't talk about velocity, talk about items, right? And for us to effectively use throughput, it's always important for us to agree on the range of our story point, right? Because throughput is the number of items. We understand that if a backlog item has a story point of 1 versus a backlog item having a story point of 8, they require different complexity to be able to complete that work, right? But then if we want to clearly focus on throughput, we should ensure that the variation between the story point is not that wide. So we can have a working agreement that, okay, our backlog item must be between 1 and 3, so that if we say we completed 20 backlog item, we can have an average. But if there's a lot of fluctuation between a 1 and 8, we cannot really utilize throughput as a measure of performance. So throughput is very important. It gives us how many items we're able to complete within the sprint, but it's more useful when we can have we can limit the variability between the story point, and in most of the cases try to keep it. My recommendation is that try to keep it between 1 and 3, then you can have throughput as a measure. Then my best one is what I call the happiness index. So the happiness index measure how your team collaborates. Is everyone just behind their camera, nobody saying anything unless they ask? Can your team just reach out to you and joke? Can the team just have a joking matter, just have a free conversation during a meeting or so? You want to measure if your team is happy. Sometimes it's not just about work. Yeah, you need to work hard, you need to play hard. You need to work hard, you need to play hard. It's very important. If you're able to incorporate all of these different aspects into your team, it's going to measure performance. Now, one of my favorite responses to how will you measure your team performance, I always start with look. The first thing I started to look at is the happiness index. How is my team collaborating? How are they communicating? If we can collaborate effectively, then we can figure out what is going wrong. If we can collaborate effectively, we can figure out why is this story not moving forward, and we can be able to solve that. So when collaboration and communication, which are the key to happiness index, are in place, then retrospectives are going to go well, commitment is going to go well, and we're not going to have any issue with our bend down chart, with our velocity chart, with our throughput. We are going to be on point. All right. So that was it for you today, and definitely you're welcome to the Safe Scrum chat room. This was Dr. Francis Mbunya, and if you're new to this channel, make sure that you're hitting the subscribe button. Mondays and Fridays, our super days. Wednesdays, we actually go live, right? So Monday, you're gonna have a video from me. Friday, a video from me. Wednesday is Peter. We go live. We answer some of your questions, especially most of those who have been put in the channel. Saturday also, when I'm available, we also do a longer live session just to teach something, be there for you. The goal is for us to learn and grow together as a team. If you need coaching, make sure that reach out to me, join one of our community. We don't teach you Scrum. We help you to do Scrum. We help you to become agile. And that is exactly what you need in order to effectively pull up in your next role. All right, I'll see you on the other side.